Hi, this is John Hartra, and welcome to a special video episode of Keep On Grooving. Today, we're finally going to go over the Electric Lady Studios' Jimi Hendrix Vision box set, which, after a week of delays from a company that sounds similar to a river in South America, finally got it, finally went through it a little bit, just kind of a quick run through, get more into it as we go along. But let's just do a quick history of Experience Hendrix's box sets. They have a little ADHD problem as far as like how they go. So let's start off. This is the purple box from 2000. It's this is the one that was through the fire in 2007 and the flood from Hurricane Irene in 2011. But it's still this, stable. It still doesn't look too bad. But anyway, so this was it. This was the purple velvet and everything. And, you open it up. And, come on. There we go. And you got the booklet there. And then the CD's there. So this was kind of the standard box set once the... bumped it. Once the, Crossroads, Dreams, Square... Bob Dylan's Biograph, the Square box sets, once those went, they kind of, around the time of Skinner's set, the Who set, they all started looking like that. Now, when Sony took over and they reissued it, they went to this size. It's like a little book. It's like a little bit small. Could have been a little larger. Which the odd thing was, they had already done with West Coast Seattle Boy in 2010. So this was a decent size. Winterland is like this. It's just, I don't have it here with me now, but it's the same size. But anyway, so, you got the booklet there and the pictures and then the CDs. I think one of them is a DVD on this one with the Hear My Trainer coming. So you'd figure they'd want to put them like the same size, but no, they're not. Then when they came out with the Electric Lady 50th set, it was this. It was the coffee table book. And you had the stuff on the inside. And then the books here. So again, no conformity. But then they went another step further when they did Songs for Groovy Children, the Band of Gypsies concert set. It's this little thing like this. It's like the like when you buy those singles CD box sets. They come like this. So that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different formats. And now we have a 6th. Take a look at this. So this will be kind of an unboxing. Yeah, I take the sticker off. Because they're actually nice, they're informative, and if I can find a nice space like this, I always stick them on. So what did they do this time? So we get a box. We get a basically full-size booklet with all the pictures and everything, and this was, every time David and I would go to New York City, we'd walk right by here. You couldn't miss it, but you miss it now because it's not there anymore. Then, for the box itself, like, okay, you open it up and see it. No, wait, you got to open it up again. So you have 4 whole things. Now the thing is, you have disc 1, disc 2, and disc 3, but what's in this middle one here? Oh, wait. This is your Blu-ray. It's in the middle, not in the end, it's in the middle. So we'll deal with the Blu-ray another time, mostly in the audio episodes when I get a chance to do those. Because that's kind of like a separate issue unto itself. So that's the unboxing of the box. So now let's do a quick run through of the 39 tracks on the set, plus 4. If you watch my Left Turn at Albuquerque episodes, you recognize that little addendum. So let's talk about the 39 tracks on the set. First one is Easy Rider, which was mixed on June 18th. This is the first time Jimmy had to work with the Steve Winwood and Chris Wood backing tracks. So he started playing around. The I think the first mix that was on, I think it was on West Coast Seattle Boy. I think that was June 15th. That was like literally the first thing he did when he got there. Then next on the set, speaking of June 15th, is the Valleys of Neptune demo with Steve Winwood. And that's the one where if you listen to it, it sounds like there's a guy, maybe Dave Palmer, just sitting behind a drum kit doing a bass drum. But I think that's Steve Winwood's like own personal, kind of like a metronome. It was like, not like a click click metronome. It was like a bass drum, thump thump thump. This is a little. It's kind of thrilling to hear it because Steve does some great stuff on electric piano, but it's also kind of depressing because the song never really developed much further than this, and this sounded like a song that was, it sounds like Jimi Hendrix and Traffic in 1970. It could have been like on either one of their albums, and it's something that never was, and we never got it. It kind of reminds me of if you were lucky enough back in the 90s to pick up the Greg Allman 2 CD set of One More Try that Capricorn Polydor put out before Greg got annoyed and sued and had him pull it. The minute I read that news, I ran out and bought one for my brother-in-law, my friend Ray, and my friend Aaron. So we're covered. But between us, we have 4 sets of that. It showed a Greg Allman that, like, by 1973, 1974, was ready to develop into something more, and then the drugs and the alcohol kicked in, and that just stopped there. And this is kind of what you have with Valleys of Neptune, just something that never was. The next was, they have it in one track, Straight Ahead, the first time working through that song in the studio, even though they'd done it live at Berkeley, maybe one other time before that. And Jimmy, is telling okay, just hang on to this. It's just, keep it going. They just playing through that pattern, and they just keep that going for a little bit to keep it, to learn it a little better. Then next up is Drifter's Escape, the first 2 takes of that, and of course Jimmy messes up the lyrics. He tried doing the lyrics with it, but he messes it up along the way. Then we get a couple of tracks of Astro Man. We get takes 9 and 10, which is one is a false start and one is a basic run through. So kind of laying down the basic track of that. And then take 14 is like 8.5 minutes. And it's kind of like, it's similar to the original version that he first did with the Band of Gypsies when the song first started coming together. So you can call it Astro Jam, take 14. So that was done on June 24th. The last 2 were done on June 19th. Then we get to the basic take of Drifting that was done on June 25th, just kind of bare bones. It turns out the master take of Nightbird Flying, the more countrified version that became the song on Cry of Love, they did that master take basically back on June 16th. That's how quick they got it down, and then they just played with it for the next 2 months from there. Then the little snippet of Further On Up the Road from June 24th is next. That, of course, became better known later on as Eric Clapton would work it into his sets in the 70s and 80s. And I think he even revived it recently, I read somewhere. Then there's a long medley, which was done right after that. They're jamming on Astro Man. And then they kind of segue into Beginnings, which was jammed back at the house before that. It's kind of clunky for the first 3 minutes or so. They can't quite get in sync, and then they do, and it's pretty good for about the second half of it. Then from there they move into Hey Baby, where Jimmy does all the lyrics, and he gets the lyrics actually correct. So I'm surprised someone hasn't AI'd the correct, where are you coming from, or where do you come from? Take it out of there and put it into the Rainbow Bridge version. They haven't done it yet. They probably will. Then after that, they kind of go into what's called Keep On Moving, which is kind of Straight Ahead and Midnight Lightning kind of mashed together. And then it ends with Freedom, a full, 3.5, 4 minute version instrumentally done. So that was 26 minutes, and that just kind of shows that they were really rejuvenated being in the new studio, and the band could really kick it for an extended period of time. Okay, then I think the next disc starts with the Earth Blues overdub session. This has been really confusing recently because when the Purple Box came out, they had the Band of Gypsies recording done back in like January, I think January 20th or so of 1970. And then that was mixed. But the mixing date said August 22nd. And it's like, oh, wait. Jimmy did like guitar overdubs, and God rest his soul, Chris M. questioned that. Did Mitch actually do the overdubs for the drums while Jimmy was alive, or Jimmy passed away? It turns out it looks like this session Mitch did his drum overdubs here. So, but why would Jimmy do that mix, for a Band of Gypsies version when he'd done all this extra work on it? It didn't make any sense. We think we figured it out. I know Wayne Hubbard and at least one other person, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. I don't forget if it was Crosscat or somebody. In Ultimate Hendrix, they list a mix of the Band of Gypsies version done on March 24th. That makes a whole lot more sense. Now, whether or not Jimmy actually did a rough mix of the stuff that he did on this date on June 25th, we don't know. The mix we have here, Eddie just did it like when the box was either 2020 or 2021. And it was kind of just like all the effects that were on the Rainbow Bridge version, kind of just took it down and just kind of left it like a bare bones version just to kind of hear what they did. So we kind of have a little clarity on that issue. Next up is Dolly Jagger, take 7, 8. Take 7 is a little short, and then take 8 is a full-ish version. He tries doing some lyrics. And then take 9 would be the one that they would, take the master from, and then would later add on Paley Gap, slow part after that, after the Give Me Some Love and stuff. So that's when that was done. Then Angel Take 7, which is the master take to the one from Cry of Love. That was done on July 23rd. And they put that out, I think, as a Record Store Day single. And everybody's really liking how nice the song sounded right off the bat. They didn't need to really do anything to it, but they did some extra stuff later on with Mitch's overdubs and a few other things. Then Beginnings Take 5 was done on July 1st, the same day as Dolly Dagger. This is the one that was on War Heroes, and it was the mix that's on War Heroes. It's just, this is the full take of that. The one on War Heroes is like 4:15. This is 5:28. Jimmy had done a mix of this, I think, on August 22nd. I'm wondering if that's the one with the temple block that's floating out in bootlegs. But we don't know. They didn't release it. I thought this was it, but this is not. This is a 1972 mix for War Heroes before they took all the edits out. Then we have Lover Man, which is directly from the Purple Box. Now, either you were going to do more additional tracks, that had been previously released, or don't do any. I mean, this is where they could have put in the Hear My Train A Comin' that I think was done on the 21st. I mean, Lover Man was done on the 20th. They Hear My Train A Comin' on the 21st. But that's never been bootlegged, so we don't know if it's just an instrumental, if it's with full lyrics, if it breaks down. All we know is it was a single spirited take. Would have been nice to get it here instead of this, but so anyway, I'm going to do, like I said, I'll do my +4 editions at the end of what I think they could have also tossed on. Okay, the next up is Tune X just came in, the song that would develop into In From the Storm. This was the first kind of run through. Billy Cox said is basically Jimmy and him had just come up with it in a hotel room probably a few days prior, and they got it together going. Then they jump all the way back to June 26th for the Heaven Has No Sorrow demo, again with Jimmy and Billy just kind of going. They don't include the Little Dog of Mine intro, which is on all the bootlegs. And like I speculated in the episode last time, there are some similarities between Sending My Love to Linda and this, especially the extended version. Just some similar melodies. So it's almost like you can kind of mix them together like that. I did it on my own, but I wouldn't suggest they try something like this. Okay, next, they stick around the end of July for Freedom, an early run through there. They do Take 4, and then again around the same time, Jimi did a Valleys of Neptune solo demo where he does all the lyrics, and I'm pretty sure this is the only other time he did the full set of lyrics. He did it back in September of '69 with the demo with Mitch, where they took the lyrics from to put on Valleys of Neptune that showed up on the album of that name onto the May 1970 take they did at the record plant. But this is just Jimi doing the song all on its own. And like I said, there are very few instances of this, so this is good to have that. Then July 15th, Come Down Hard on Me, Take 5. Similar to the one that we ended up getting both on Loose Ends and that he did the mix on the 22nd. There's still a lot of work to be done on that song. Then next up is a July 19th mix of Dolly Dagger, just seeing the progress, seeing like, okay, what do we need? Could we try the vocals up further in here? Put the guitar here? Do we do overdubs? So that's interesting to hear that. Then next up they have a little snippet called Messing Around. They're just jamming for like 1:40, but it was 17 takes of it, at least, if not more. It's like, you're messing around for too long if you're spending an hour doing this minute 40 second segment, unless it was edited down from a further one, which isn't out of the realm of possibility. It's also similar to another little thing that they've already released that I'll add in as one of the things that they should have included. Then after that they do an extended take of Tune X, just came in. It's take 14? No, take 8, and it's like an 8.5, 9-minute jam, and it's like Jimmy's making up his own lyrics. They're very similar to the old B.B. King song "Don't Answer the Door," like I don't want you hanging out with that man you tramp, like that type of stuff. Like was he angry at Devin possibly that day? It's possible. So that's of interest there. Then we start with the later mixes of Jimi that were like, that might have helped make up the album had he just decided, okay, this is good enough, I can release it. Drifting, a Jimi mix on August 22nd, one of the big mixing days that they had. It's very similar to the one that came out just with no vibes, because Buzzy Linhart did that posthumously. Then they do the take on Freedom. They do a mix from July 19th where Jimi left up, there's a whole like guitar part where Jimi does kind of like Clapton's Woman Tone from his Cream days. And that's the one that you hear in that one section towards the end of Freedom on Cry of Love, that like bassy, fuzzy guitar. There's a whole lead like that he hung underneath. And Eddie left it in because he's like, well, Jimi was going to do another overdub. He just never got around to do it. So he left it in to kind of hold its place. Okay, next up is July 23rd. The band did a full take of Belly Button Window. Different from the one that Jimi did solo and with him and a wah-wah. This is a whole band, kind of a shuffle. It's nicely done. It's too bad they didn't develop it on their own. Might have been a cool thing to do live, but they didn't. Then we have the August 20th mix of Dolly Dagger. It's close to what's there, but there are some significant differences. So it's like, obviously, okay, we got to play with this. I think they added in the fuzz bass at this point, or it might have been. I know at some point around here is when Billy put in the fuzz bass. I think it was this take. So they started mixing with it here. The final mix would be done on the 24th. Then the same thing with Nightbird Flying. Jimi was doing some overdubs and doing a mix on the 20th, and then finally on the 24th, that's when the final mix would be done. Those two would be taken over to be made a test pressing of. Then, for me, this is the major one on the box set, Midnight Lightning from July 1st. This is the one that Alan Douglas took and chopped up and used to make his version. We now get the complete version of that. Light almost went out. It's not perfect. It's still very loose, still very ramshackle. Obviously, Jimmy's doing the fun stoop down lyrics with it, and then in the end, it kind of merges into beginnings. It's like they really loved working on that here. It's like, it was kind of a throw. You think it was kind of a throwaway back when they did it in at Woodstock, but Jimmy obviously wanted to do something with it, and they kept working on it until they got to the point where, when they ended up playing it later at Maui, it's like, sounded great. It's too bad they didn't get a chance to do more with it on their own. But for me, this is like the major thing that this box set has added to the catalog, and we finally get this. Then next up is a August 22nd mix of Straight Ahead, similar to the one on Cry of Love, but that one wasn't done, I think, till the 25th. So this is just working towards that. Now, in From the Storm, the August 24th mix is interesting. The other mix that Jimmy did, I think, was on the 20th. That was on West Coast Seattle Boy. It's cool, but I've mentioned many times, I don't like the out of sync drums in the middle of the song. Today, it just messes it up. Doesn't work well. In this take, he removes all that, and so it's a nice clean thing through the middle. But he decides to do something similar to what he did to Freedom by taking out the little breakdown jam that's like right before the ending. He decides to take out the little he takes that little section out, and it doesn't work. It just, the song sounds too choppy, it goes from this to this really fast. It needs that kind of time to play out. So what I did was I used this as the basis, and then I plugged in the ending section from, I didn't use Cry of Love, I used the August 22nd, the West Coast Seattle Boy mix. So I made a mix of that. So it's all Jimmy. So I have a full Jimmy mix of the song, even though I had to splice it together from two different tracks. Then we get the Jimmy mix of the Bolero Hey Baby combo. And Jimmy looks like is the one that left up. Is the microphone on? It seems like he did that, because it appears in this mix. So Eddie probably just followed along with it, knowing that this is just going to show this wasn't the final mix. They were going to work on this a little bit more. So it's good to have that. People have listened, and they said, there's some different mixes with the percussion in Bolero. So that's something to listen for there. Then we have the August 22nd mix of Drifter's Escape. That's the same one that's on South Saturn Delta, and possibly going far back, one of the versions of Lifeline / Live and Unreleased. I think the European version doesn't have it, but the US version did. But there's a little talking in the beginning, so technically that's unreleased. And kind of fudges it there. Then we get the August 22nd mix of Astro Man. I think the one that came out on Cry of Love was on the 24th. Then Jimmy did mix Bleeding Heart. He had recorded that back in March at the record plant. Mitch came in and at some point, maybe at the record plant, did his own drums on it, because somebody else did the drums originally. And on the 22nd, he did his own mix of that. Now, it's shorter than the one that's on War Heroes, and it's even shorter than the bootleg version, which goes all the way to the end with Mitch's drumming going crazy, or maybe the original drum. I don't know. So this is 3:05, and it plays up other parts compared to the one that was released. Then we get a... Did I miss... Oh, I skipped over Freedom. Right? Yeah, I think I skipped over Freedom when we did Midnight Lightning. So before Midnight Lightning, he mixed Freedom, and it's almost exactly the same as it is on Cry of Love, except, as I mentioned, he didn't put in that overdub fuzzy guitar. He left it out. He plays up the piano a lot more. So it's a really interesting mix that way, and frankly, it doesn't need the overdub. You could leave it off and use this as your mix. It would have been just fine. Nobody would have known the difference. So anyway, because I'm getting near the end here, and I'm seeing these are now the last 3 tracks on the album are posthumous mixes. Drifting is only 240 or so. Eddie was doing it to try sound effects out and maybe to see how Buzzy's work would have worked, made itself in there, gotten itself worked in. Then another one that's been a long time coming, the Room Full of Mirrors version with Mitch's drums. Now, to me, Mitch doesn't do a bad drum part. It's just the way that the song is mixed, because there was always a question about, is the drum track messed up? Can we separate it out? It doesn't sound good at all. It sounds very boxy. Like the rest of the song sounds like it's over here, and Mitch's drums are over here, and it doesn't work. Now, interestingly, people have now compared it to, hey, I heard this in Rainbow Bridge during the surface sequence. I'm like, I've been saying that for years. I bet that's Mitch's drums. It's not quite Buddy's drums. So it's good to have this, but it's kind of like his version of Somewhere on the Purple Box. Like, good to have, but it's like, yeah, it doesn't quite work. So it's like, too bad. Then the final song on the set is a posthumous mix of Angel before the final one, so they were just trying out different effects. I think they were trying to work Mitch's overdubs in. So that's the whole set there. So that's 39 tracks, like 38 previously unreleased. If they would have substituted in Here My Train A-Comin' for Lover Man, if it was a good track, they wouldn't have needed to use any previously released material. But since they did, I wish they would have added 4 more tracks. On disc 1, if they were going to include stuff that had been previously released, the thing that should have opened this set was All God's Children, which appeared on West Coast Seattle Boy. It was the first thing the band recorded when they were at the studio. You know, if you're going to use previously released material, you could use it. It's only 5 minutes, but fits on the CD. The CDs are only like an hour each. I think the longest one's like 63 minutes or something like that. So, sorry, vinyl people, but I want my CDs filled up. So this would have at least filled up a little bit. Now on disc 2, I actually would have added 2 things. There was still room to add in Hear My Train A-Comin', unless it was like 20 minutes long or something like that. If it was usually like 8 minutes, could have fit on. They also could have just stuck in there somewhere the little thing from West Coast Seattle Boy, Play That Riff from July 19th, where Jimmy from like the Woodstock solo section of Voodoo Child, and they mixed it that day. It's like Eddie told Jimmy just play that riff. He did. They cut it and they went and mixed it. So it's like there's an actual mix of a 35-second track. They could have stuck it on there. And then the last song I would have added was Slow Time Blues, which is on the Purple Box. It's 1:45. It's the last thing the band recorded as a song at Electric Lady. So that's what I would have added just to augment it, because there's still other tracks floating out there, like all the alternate mixes, Easy Rider, Come Down Hard on Me, the 2 Bandit Gypsy songs, Message of Love, Power of Soul, that were mixed at that point, that were included elsewhere. So, but I don't know if I can recommend this set for like a newbie, but if you like Hendrix's music and kind of want a little bit of a deeper dive into things, you could kind of get this, and then there's enough to enjoy on here as it is. Plus, there's the Blu-ray, which like I said we'll talk about on audio, because if I put any video up, who knows, the whole thing may get struck. So it's probably for somebody who's a little bit deeper into it and doesn't mind hearing like alternate tracks and things. And so if you're into that, this is definitely geared towards you. So that's it for now. As I mentioned, I'm going to try to get an audio episode out this month dealing with the construction of the studio, and we'll talk about the documentary a little bit. Then I'm hoping for November that I'm able to do like a rerun of First Rays of the New Rising Sun, like with what we get on this box, with what's on the Blu-ray, what would it look like now if you substituted certain things in and mixed things up. So Thankfully, this is still out. This is finally out. So if you have it, go enjoy it. It's definitely a worthwhile listen. You know, you may not give too many things repeat listens, but there's at least one CD in there that you could like make a playlist of for like, 75, 80 minutes, and you could make that as an album. So that's that. So thank you for watching, and talk to you next time. One more quick thing before we go. You heard me mention his name before. Happy birthday to my buddy Darren. I wouldn't, as you've heard me mention before, I wouldn't be in Hendrix if it wasn't for him. So this episode is dedicated to him. Happy birthday, buddy.